Struggling LA clout chaser, actor Rob, was accused of being a cheater by his fiancée Sophie. But despite her clear disapproval of his online funny business, Rob pulls the classic Manchild move of not taking accountability, making yourself the victim, and blaming everything on your partner. Big Ed, is that you? So let's break down what happened using the Manchild Playbook and see if by the end of this video we can convince Rob that he actually did do something wrong before we get another Kalani Oswelu situation. Rob and Sophie have been dating for 2.5 years or so, and up until recently, the majority of that time was spent long distance. Sometime during the pandemic when they were not able to see each other, Rob, feeling lonely from all the time he's not been spending with his partner, was just laying around at home when he got a random DM from a girl that included some spicy pictures and videos. And instead of identifying the obvious red flags associated with getting random sexy pictures from someone you don't know, whether it be in a moment of weakness or desperation or pure stupidity, Rob engages in the conversation and sends some stuff of his own, which, to Rob's great surprise, but not to the surprise of anyone listening, ended up being sent to Sophie, his partner, as apparently whoever he was engaging with was screenshotting all this as evidence and immediately sending it to his girlfriend. Now, we don't know if this was one of Sophie's friends that maybe she sets this whole thing up to catch him, or if this was one of Rob's side chicks or someone he's been flirting with online for a long time, or if it truly was out of the blue for Rob and it was just someone who followed Sophie online and just wanted to test her boyfriend for her. We don't know any of that, but we do know that this is a 1 hour long mistake that Rob made that involves some sort of extracurricular activity with another girl in a relationship where that sort of thing is not allowed. That brings us to this week's episode, where Sophie tries to bring up the situation again with Rob, and we immediately see the Manchild response kick in.
You know, when we was doing like the long distance thing and you kind of like did the whole online talking to that one person.
When are you gonna let it go?
When are you gonna let it go, huh? When are you gonna stop caring about the bad things I did? Immediately mad and defensive. But this is an interesting response from Rob when we think about it, because his defensiveness in this moment could imply one of two things. The most obvious culprit is that her bringing up something that he did wrong in the past might trigger a sense of guilt or shame in Rob, and instead of being able to tolerate those feelings of guilt and shame, Rob just rejects it all. If I had to guess, I would say that that's why maybe 90% of apologies don't feel like real apologies. An apology can only really feel genuine if you feel like the person apologizing genuinely feels bad and understands that what they did is wrong. But if the person apologizing can't tolerate that feeling of guilt inside them, then you get the half-assed apologies like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel hurt from what I did. I'm not really sorry for what I did because I don't want to admit to myself that I really did something wrong, but I can tell myself that your problems are your responsibility and therefore it's not really my fault for making you feel bad. You just happen to feel bad from something I did. It takes a strong individual to really own up to their mistakes and to take accountability for their actions. And it could be that we're seeing evidence from Rob that he's just not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
But another explanation of his defensiveness could be that Rob genuinely feels like he didn't do anything wrong because he didn't literally cheat in person, and feels like he's being accused of something that he didn't really do. So is Rob the kind of manchild that doesn't have the strength to acknowledge he's wrong? Or is he the kind of manchild that lacks the wisdom to understand that what he did was wrong? Sophie brushes right past his defensiveness and says a lot of smart things.
We only have, 90 days to decide if we're going to be together, if this is like it. So it's like, I definitely feel like this is obviously something that we should talk about. Because it's like, it's always going to be in the back of my mind if I don't bring this up to you.
And instead of taking it seriously or addressing any of her points, Rob tries to defend his actions by saying essentially that he didn't really do anything wrong.
Like, we're not gonna act like I've cheated on you when all I did was respond to somebody while laying in bed at home one day in the middle of us not seeing each other for 7 months. Literally, it didn't last more than a day. It didn't last more than an hour?
In what world does anything he just say make it any better? The fact that it only happened once and only lasted like an hour, that's just context. And the fact that it happened while you had not seen each other for 7 months, that sounds like a justification. None of those things change what he actually did. They're irrelevant. Imagine he did something else and said, well, all I did was make out with a girl one day during a 7-month break, and we didn't even do it for longer than an hour, so I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, all that other stuff just doesn't matter. The thing that you did is the thing that you did. Sophie immediately recognized that he's totally trying to downplay any of his wrongdoings and calls him out for it.
An hour?
You're downplaying it a little bit.
I'm not.
And Rob responds by doubling down and asserting that he did not do anything wrong.
I'm downplaying it because I didn't do anything.
Which one is it, Rob? Is what you did not that bad because it didn't last longer than an hour and only happened once and I feel justified because the 7-month thing? Or do you think that's because all we did was talk that I didn't actually do anything wrong? Those are totally different arguments. Was the wrong thing you did not that bad? Or was the thing you did not wrong at all? It might sound like I'm nitpicking here, but this is an important distinction to make when you're actually in the relationship. If it's just an argument of severity, then there should be nothing stopping Rob from still taking accountability for his actions and saying, yeah, I did mess up. I did do something that was kind of on the spectrum of cheating. Maybe I don't think it was a 9 out of 10, but I know that I really still did mess up. I know that that would hurt your feelings, and I understand why you would now view me with some skepticism and how that could have damaged our trust in the relationship. Or if he just legitimately didn't see this as cheating in his world and in his own culture, there is a world where he could have said that, all this online stuff, like it's not cheating to me. I view it as just flirting and harmless, and if you did something like that, I also would not care because I don't view that as cheating within my relationships. Then he could take accountability for the misunderstanding and say, I didn't know that what I was doing was wrong. Although I never meant to hurt your feelings, I can recognize that I inadvertently crossed a major boundary with you in a way that really hurt your feelings. I want to reiterate that now that I know what our boundaries are, that I definitely won't cross them. I never crossed your boundaries intentionally, but I can understand that that would have still hurt your feelings regardless, and I'm really sorry for that. In either situation, you can still recognize that there was something that happened that would have hurt your partner's feelings and try to compromise and take some accountability for your actions. But if you try to make both arguments like Rob is, kinda sounds like you just can't take any responsibility at all for your actions and you're a man-child.
I did not cheat.
There's nothing
Stop
to take
playing
my
with me.
word
We're not going
for
to talk about it like I cheated because I'm not going to live my life.
Now that Rob's attempted to shrug off any accountability, now he starts to play a bit of the victim card and says that he deserves some credit for only kind of cheating that once and not cheating any other time.
And I feel like, you got to give me a little bit of credit that in 2.5 years, the only thing I ever did was respond to the wrong person.
I get it.
Credit? You want credit for only kind of cheating once? I'm not calling him an abuser, by the way. I'm just drawing a parallel in logic. But it does kind of sound similar to an abuser saying, I think I deserve more credit for being such a good partner to you that occasionally all I do is get a little mad at you after you yell at me and provoke me so much. It's a way of saying, yeah, I did something wrong, but you can't actually get mad at me and it's not my fault. Sophie catches on to that pretty quickly and says, okay, great, yeah, you only did one bad thing, but I've done 0 bad things, so I don't know about that. But this gives Rob an opportunity to make something up out of thin air to even the playing field.
But I'm still wondering about the social media apps that you on these dating apps where
I was never on dating app.
Now Rob is accusing her of using a dating app, while she says that she's using this just for friends. And this is an app that Sophie told Rob ahead of time, hey, I'm on this app. I use it for friends. I'm being totally transparent about this up front so that you don't have to worry. By the way, for some context, they could be talking about Bumble, which is one of the biggest dating apps right now, which is a more women-focused dating app, and there is an actual separate section entirely where there was normal Bumble, and there was Bumble BFFs, where it's like women looking for other female friends. If it's just Tinder or something, you could make the arguments that, yeah, I'm on a dating app, but I'm not using it for that purpose, which does require a little bit of faith. But if it's something like Bumble, then there's actually completely different categories, and you don't have to take it on just faith. They just only have the BFF account. Just like me, Sophie thinks this is BS and immediately asks him like, hey, why are you bringing that up right now? This isn't a problem that you've had, you just happen to bring it up now when I'm trying to talk about the you cheating thing? It's a little suspicious. And if I haven't convinced you by now that Rob is just trying to do whatever he can to avoid taking accountability.
Why are you bringing this up when I asked
you bringing up stuff to me, so it's like,
yeah, but
you have one thing to worry about me, I got one thing to worry about you. I'm not gonna continue to let that dictate how I feel.
Rob says the reason I brought this up just now is because you brought up something. You have one thing to worry about. I have one thing to worry about, and I'm not gonna pester you about it all the time. I'm not gonna worry. I'm just gonna let it go. So now you have to not worry about it, and you have to let it go. To which Sophie again immediately calls out and says, that's a false equivalency. That's not the same thing. You actually cheated and engaged in this scandalous behavior. I didn't do anything like that. And we really have to give it to Sophie. She's pretty quick-witted and immediately saw through all of his BS when it came out, so really kudos to her. Some people might see Rob's behavior and accuse him of being a pathological liar or a narcissist or something really bad like that, maybe a gaslighter. Personally, I think that's manchild, although not a clinical definition fits him best. When you teach toddlers to apologize, they don't want to do it. We all know that feeling of like, oh, I really have to own up to that I really made a mistake. Like that's a hard thing to do. But at some point, you have to grow up. You have to accept that, you know what, yeah, as uncomfortable as this is, I made a mistake. That's on me. It's my responsibility. I can't blame other people for it. I made a mistake. I have to own that because it's my responsibility as a man or a person or whatever you want to say to yourself. I need to own up to my mistakes and to apologize to the people that I have wronged. And for whatever reason, that seems like a level of development that is harder for a lot of guys to really get to. Not sure we have the data on that to confirm that, but that's the kind of man-child feeling. Like you want to act like you're this big man and stand up straight with, your pecs out and feel like you're this big alpha guy. But underneath that facade, you're not strong enough and confident enough in yourself as a person that you can't just own up to when you made a mistake and apologize when you need to. That's what it looks like Rob is struggling with, and I kind of hope that's the case because that's a lot better than being a narcissist or a pathological liar or anything like that. So hopefully with more life experiences and time, he can grow out of this problematic phase of his life. And until then, I wish him and Sophie the best. Still a man-child though. Still don't have to like him. That's all I got for today's video. Let me know what you thought about this more analytical breakdown approach in the comments down below. And until next time, if you enjoyed this video and you enjoy my content, then make sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell for notifications, and every comment helps the algorithm. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.